Welcome, everyone, to the Leader Next Door podcast, where we find leaders from all walks of life and find out their secret strategies for success. New episodes are released every Thursday. Sit back and enjoy the show. Hi, Dr. Harry Grammer.
How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for putting some time on the schedule for me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I was just trying to play around with this FaceTime on my computer. I never use FaceTime on my laptop. So I'm like, I really hope this works, because normally I'd screw up things like this. So it worked out.
Me too. I was hoping you weren't real good at this, because I screw these things up too. It's awesome. It looks like it's working on my end, so that's cool. I'm recording your voice. I just like to see you on see the guest on FaceTime. It kind of makes it a little bit cooler. I tried to do video for a while, but I kept screwing that up because the audio wouldn't match the video. And then I don't know if you've ever seen that, like the lips are moving. Yeah, and
absolutely.
It's a whole
thing. Were you doing YouTube for a while, or can you do video on Spotify?
They just started. So I really am pretty new to the podcast thing. I started like a half a year ago. And as soon as I started, the program that I used, Anchor, which is like affiliated with Spotify, has like, they basically, as soon as they started, offered video that went along with it for free. So that was pretty cool. I tried it once or twice, and it's just, I'll get there. For now, we're just going to do the audio. And I'm okay.
I think with all the podcasts I listen to, I listen to them, right? I don't really watch podcasts. So
that's what I said. That's exactly what I don't like. The podcasts that I listen to, there's never a moment where I'm like, man, I wish I could see what they're saying. I mean, rarely. So rarely. So
Joe Rogan's pretty funny. I mean, to watch his shows, that's one thing, but that's an anomaly. So
that is true. Actually, I was listening to one of them the other day. He had an MMA fighter on, and they were describing like how the guy like broke his leg, and I'm like, I kind of want to see that. So I think I did look, because they do video, and I think I missed it. So, but I see what you're saying. So Dr. Grammer, I know that I really didn't know anything about you until I found out about you through someone in my family named Jared Wright. And you might call him, he may have a lot of nicknames too, I don't know, but we were hanging out this summer in Nebraska, and he said, oh man, he's like, I had this great friend from high school. He's like, you got to check him out. And he gave me a couple of people that he talked to, and I kind of just didn't get around to it. And then I finally did. And I'm like, you were friends with this guy? I'm like, I mean, Jared's a great guy, and I'm glad he could connect me to you. So I just wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got started and everything you're doing. And there's a lot.
Yeah. First of all, I love Jared. I haven't seen Jared since probably high school, or maybe a little bit later.
Yeah.
But Jared, I will always remember Jared, because, he was like the A1 blocker, you know what I mean, on offense. And, all I would see was him running over people and seeing the tops or the bottoms of feet, as he trucked through, a defensive line to make a hole, man. So, I mean, Jared is a big place in my heart. He's just a big teddy bear. And,
he is.
I miss that guy.
I know. I do too. I was lucky enough to marry my wife, and Jared was her cousin, and finally got out there to meet him. And every time we're around him, he's just so loyal and friendly, and just, you want to be around him. Everybody wants to be around him. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, Jared's
TikTok.
Say it again.
I've watched his TikTok videos. He's pretty funny on TikTok, so that keeps me in the loop of checking in to see how Jared's doing by watching his own videos.
Yeah, same with me. He's got some moves, man. For a big guy, he can move it a little bit. It's impressive.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, Dr. Grammer, I'm honored to be able to talk to you, and I've been really looking into your life, but I don't want to talk about your life. I would like for you to maybe just give a quick introduction to who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah. I'm about people, at the end of the day. My deepest passions lies in making community impacts on larger scales, that touch people on a more personal, scale, mainly focused here in the second city of our country, Los Angeles, for the past 19 years. My wife and I, who became my wife after we founded the organization, and then now we have 3 kids, and now we're we're deep in this work of supporting young people who are traveling through some very difficult systems, foster care, not finding a way out
Yeah.
sometimes, and not having that support. Probation system, where Los Angeles has been the largest incarcerator of children in the country for a long time, and then also the largest probation department in the country as well. So helping young people find their ways out of that in a very healthy way. There's also the systems of houselessness in Los Angeles, as I think most of the nation knows, has an epidemic of homelessness here in our city, and
Yeah.
so we support young people in finding housing. But I think at the end of the day, and most of it, and what I'm really passionate about, is to see that um, areas where I struggled as a young person, and a lot of people don't know how much I struggled as a kid and got into a lot of trouble as a young person,
Yeah.
and didn't really know how to pull my way out. I'm able now to provide tools and support that are really holistic tools, meaning wraparound tools from mental, psychological, physical, physiological, supporting people getting off the ground. Because most of these kids that I talk about have been in professional parenting systems for most of their lives. And I think that sometimes doesn't get talked about enough. We look at a healthy adolescence and a healthy childhood, and someone growing up to be successful. And I think there are ways in which we do that here in this country, where someone goes to school, they get good grades, they go off to college, they earn a degree, they may land a job somewhere. These
Yeah.
days are tough, but they still may land a job somewhere, and then they go off to raise a family, and then they go off to retire. Whereas sometimes the wiring of that process isn't the same for everyone. And so what I mean by that is that even though we know that hardware, that framework exists in our society, some of a lot of the young people we work with don't have the actual understanding of how that works, because they've been shifted from home to home to home, or from school to school to school, or from probation and incarceration. So this hardware it's not attached to any type of meaningful process or progress.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what I've noticed over these years. And a lot of our young people that we work with need those just fundamental tools, just a beginning step of, okay, let's get you an understanding of what school is, education, because education, I believe, is at the root of it all. I think we all need an education. We may not need a college or a higher education, but we need a fundamental understanding of how to learn, how to resource when we don't have something, how to go out and search and find, and also how to just sort of get along in our society, and what is sort of the fabric and the landscape of this country as far as becoming a successful person here. And that's what we try to do. We try to provide that with our programs.
Yeah.
We have programs that are mentor based programs. So when I talk about mentor based, it's really important, because this means this approach is more of an integrative approach, meaning that we're really personalized care. Every young person gets a roadmap, they don't get a roadmap. We help them to create a roadmap according to their own self discoveries about what it is that they truly want to go after. It's not like, okay, here, you need to get, we do the hardware too when it comes to, yes, we're going to help you get the training for a vocation to sustain yourself. But while we're doing that, we're also asking you bigger questions about what it is that you really want to do with your life. What are you attracted to? What are you drawn to? And I tell the story about these three young men who were coming out of incarceration for about a year, 16-year-olds. They were in for, I think GTA, and I think the other two might have been in for something minor, violations of probation. And And I asked him, I said, hey guys, no, this is what happened. And now I remember the story correctly. I have a friend of mine, Michael Quill. He's at the LA Waterkeepers. They're an organization here in Los Angeles that helps to restore the Los Angeles marina. They're bringing wildlife back. They're protecting
Cool.
from overfishing. And so we partnered back about 10 years ago to take kids who are just coming out, take them out on the boat.
Yeah.
Let's go get out there. Let's see what the ocean's about. A lot of times these kids are straight from the hood, man.
Oh, yeah.
They don't know anything about the beach sometimes. You'd be surprised how close they live to it and never even been to the beach. They're 5 miles away. They've never touched the sand before, and they're 16 years old. But then to get them out onto the water on a 24-foot boat,
Yeah.
and their hair just blowing in the wind. I can't tell you how many times kids have told me, man, I feel free, man. Like I'm free. You feel freedom
Yes.
pushing against your face. And after one trip, these three guys said, hey, they asked Michael, they said, Michael, so what else do you do with this boat? Michael said, well, I dive, and they're like, dive? What do you dive for? He's like, well, we don't do much. We dive for, we scrape sea urchins off the kelp to make sure they don't destroy the fauna, underneath the water. And they're like, that sounds really cool. Is it cold down there? Mike's like, yeah, it's cold, man. I got to wear a wetsuit. He's like, they're like, is that skinny black thing that people wear when they go down? And he said, yeah, skinny black suit. You wear it, you go down. And it's Jose is his name. Jose said to Michael, he said, man, I want to do that. Is it possible to train me to do that? This kid had been out for maybe 2 weeks. And Michael said, let me check on that. Maybe there might be a possibility to get you down there. So in that moment, what we notice is that there's an attraction to something that's pretty immediate. Like that excites me. Like I want to go in that direction.
Yeah.
So we got a training together. We got them into a swimming pool nearby, got them all the diving instruction and, and got them the gear, and they're in the swimming pool, doing the whole dips and everything, seeing how long they can stay underwater. And after the training, Michael took them out to the beach and they did their first dive. This is about 6 weeks later. They're out there and they're diving. And two of the young men stuck with it. And they're still working with Michael today. This was maybe 5-6 years ago.
Unreal.
But if someone is showing me a direction they want to go in, they want to, they're interested in cars, or their uncle is a mechanic, or, they want to move in that direction. We do is we just try to guide and steer them. The word I like to use is accompaniment. So accompaniment is basically, our process is not, we don't stand in front of you and tell you go this way. We don't stand behind you and kick you forward. We walk with you as you're discovering, and we provide the resources. And if you need housing, if you're in poverty, and today we also support families. So we also, if there's a family member that's in the home, like a mother or a father who's unemployed, we place them in jobs as well. We provide rental assistance. So we do the best that we can to keep someone stable while we help them along this self-discovery process of what they're passionate about.
Yeah.
Kind of it's very similar to kind of what I did. I came out of what was not a great situation as growing up as a kid and teenage father. Spent a time locked up in juvie, and 6 years on juvenile, 5 years on juvenile probation, and bumped my head around a bunch more times. Then got into the corporate world and found out that wasn't the way I wanted to go, and backed out and went back to poverty to figure it out. And you drop down to rock bottom, trying to get the vision. And in there, I heard that, and then once that burn began to really engulf my belly. And I kind of knew what direction I wanted to go in. That's when I began to lay the roots for the organization that we have today, and that was about 20 years ago. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's a bit about sort of the process of our work a bit.
I think so many. I mean, I would never stop you because everything you say I love to listen to, and you've been doing such great work. But a couple of things that stand out. Number one, like you talked about, some of these kids that you've dealt with, and some juveniles, especially like through I forget what you called it, like the foster care system, something parenting. I don't know. I forget the phrase
Right,
you
I call it professional parenting, right? Like if you
professional
got
parenting.
someone that's going because you're jumping from so you're someone's shuffling you
Yes.
around as your parent, but they're not really your birth parent.
Well, I'll tell you the reason, like, as I started looking into you more, it kind of resonated more with me because my wife and I, 6.5 years ago, we adopted 3 boys from the foster care system in Philadelphia. And I really resonated with what you said because I know what we've been able to do with them to help them on their journey.
Yeah.
And they moved in with us when they were 5, 6, and 8. So, tack on 6 years, that's how old they are now. But I think often to myself, and they were being jockeyed around the system as well. Where would they be? Not to go through my kids one by one or anything, but they're doing really well in so many ways. And, my one son's a pretty good wrestler. And I don't know if he would have ever even, I know he would, if he would have stayed in the system in Philadelphia, it doesn't even exist there at some of the schools he would have went to. So it's just, it's really, I step back and think, it just makes me appreciate the kind of work that you are doing with kids, even though we're on opposite coasts. It's the same type of kid that would end up maybe in the situations that you were describing.
Yeah,
And
kids need stabilization,
yeah,
right? They need time for gestation. Big thing that we've been doing over the years is sort of a rites of passage program we call Beyond Boundaries.
okay,
And Beyond Boundaries is our very reminiscent of Outward Bound
yeah, I
program.
know all about Outward Bound for sure.
Outward Bound, very close to the way that they sort of take kids out into the wilderness and
Yeah,
backpacking in and spending time in nature and having time to reflect and just kind of rewire in a
yeah,
lot of ways. We go up to Utah.
yeah,
So we go up to a great ranch out in Utah, Boulder Mountain Guest Ranch, about 5 miles from the Salt Lake City, Utah airport, and it's way back out in the outback. But it's
yeah,
the Escalante Trail, and you've got this beautiful landscape out there. And we take kids out. We take 20 to 25 young people who have never been outside their towns, never been outside their
yeah,
cities, never traveled before, and we throw them on a bus and we arrive there, and we expect for there to be a sense of acclimation, and there usually is for the first few days, but by the time we leave after day 7 or 10, kids don't want to leave, and
yeah,
the reason they don't want to leave because I think being their age and being so young, for the first time in their life, someone has given them some sort of stability, some sort of sense of groundedness. Your meals were taken care of every day. You were able to go out and have silence. You weren't interrupted with, sirens and, some of these over policed, communities or, everything that's going on. They're able to just sit down and just be, and we give them the space to do that. We do programs. We go rock climbing. We go kayaking. We go, it's funny at Boulder Mountain Guest Ranch, they have this state of the art in the middle of nowhere, the state of the art music studio. I mean, really sweet music studio that they've built out there. Musicians, I
wow,
mean, have gone out and recorded albums out there. So kids can go in there and work with their producers that are on site there. We'll go canyoneering. We'll just take time to really help them to reattune to the earth. I'm a wilderness guy. I mean, it's in the name, New Earth, right? I
yeah,
just had to figure out a way to get it, into
yeah,
it. For a long time, Beyond Boundaries was everybody call it Harry's love project, right? Because first we're just trying to really sow the seeds in the community so then people can see and do our work. I couldn't necessarily spend a whole year taking them out into the wilderness. So we would take weeks out of the summer and no one funded it. So I'd have to scrape money together to get it funded. But over the last 6 or 7 years, it's been well funded to take kids out because there's much more of a need for it
yeah,
now. And now so much so, I think most of our 2023 will be spent doing Beyond Boundaries programs. We're planning for at least 6 or 7 programs next year to take kids out to Utah, other areas like Big Sur
yeah.
and is in Los Angeles. And then, I mean, the big one on the horizon is, a purchase that we're doing down in Costa Rica. So,
Harry, I got to stop you for 1 second. Can I just chime in for 1 second? Here's the thing. As everything I looked at you've done and created, we didn't even really scratch the surface of that. And as I like looked at your videos and this and that, I was like, man, I wonder if I'll have anything in common with Harry. I wonder and I didn't see any of this. You don't know me at all. You don't know anything about me, but everything you just said, you have no idea. But I love Utah, canyoneering, rock climbing, mountaineering. I've taken kids on trips for 20 years all over the world. Costa Rica. I can't believe you just said that. I was like, he's going to say Costa Rica. He's going to say, I mean, so that's something I've done as a high school teacher. I started that years ago. Now it's totally different from what you're doing. You're taking kids that have never really done much and expose them to these amazing things in nature. And you have these moments with the jungle or with the mountains that are forever changing. Yeah. I know I had that as a young person, so I totally resonate with what you're saying. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, I had an opportunity to be on a reality show called Alone, which I don't know if you know the outdoors at all, but it's on the History Channel. And it's like they take 10 people and they drop them off in a remote location, and then you just survive as long as you can. Whatever. I did not do well on that show. Okay. I did. Yeah. You could look that up some other time, but the experience was amazing. And bottom line is it's really cool. I cannot believe all the stuff that you said that I knew about was amazing. And now you're talking about all the canyoneering and rock climbing in Utah. I'm like, it's amazing to me to hear that.
That's what I'm excited about. That's the future. That's why I think, people ask me all the time, why New Earth? You sound like an environmental organization. Well, I've spent 20 years of trying to get us there. Yeah. And it took me 20 years to do all of this work to get us back to the earth. I couldn't do it 20 years ago. I couldn't do it 10 years ago. I couldn't do it 15 years ago. Nobody was going to hear that.
Yeah.
I think now I have an opportunity to get folks back to the earth, get them back to their natural state, get them out of the cities, get them, really healed up from a lot of the, what's going on in the world and just the mind scrambling and social media and everything, to get them back to a place where they can hear themselves. Maybe sometimes even for the first time.
Yeah. I know this. Let me, I'll tell you this situation real quick. In Costa Rica, we're in the jungle about 4 days in to a 10-day trek. And the kids, they wanted to bring their cell phones at first. And this is about 6 years ago. We were against it. It was me and two other leaders, other teachers. And, we brought the group together. We'd been sleeping under tarps and the whole thing. It was just a great experience. We brought them together and like, look, guys, we noticed that you're on your phones a lot. And, even though there's no internet here, you're listening to music and we know that you use them to take pictures, but we really want you to immerse yourself in everything that this experience has to offer. You probably will never be here again. And they almost formed a coup. And
I've been there. I've been there so many times.
So it's like, dude, I'm like, what? I thought they were going to be like, you're right, Mr. Shields. We're going to put him away. Nope.
No.
Have you seen anything like that?
Oh, I've seen it. That's happened to me on more than one occasion. I've had kids, because usually we tell them to keep your phones in the van, right? And we lock the van up and like they're away, they're in the van. And then when we get up there, somebody didn't put theirs in the van, right? And there we go. We got a couple phones hanging out. It's really difficult to disconnect them from that, So usually there's an education around that I try to instill about, the importance of spending the majority of your time off of it, even though they get no Wi-Fi, they can't connect to the outside world.
Yeah.
You'll go to their tent, and, you'll hear the beats going, right. And, you're like, we want you guys to really experience, that silence. And then, there's another time, and this is a very similar story, because I've taken kids who have just gotten out, right. They're fresh out of jail. They're 16, 17 years old. They've been locked up. And, we tried to program pretty regimented, right? There's a 6 a.m. We get up, we maybe have breakfast, maybe do a talk. Maybe there's someone there to do some yoga with us or something, right? Like get everybody going. And there's kids that don't want to get out of their tent. They don't want to come out and join. And this one kid, made me think once, and I went and rattled his tent, and I'm rattling his tent. Hey, get up, man! It's time to go. And I rattled it again. He wouldn't get up, and then finally he zips up his tent and he says, "Hey, man, stop!" And I said, "What?" He said, "Man, for the last 9 months, I've been told to get up at a certain time." He's like, "This is really the first time I've had any silence, any sleep, any time not to have to watch my back from someone jumping me in the middle of the night. Can I just lay here?" I was like, all right, yeah, I gotta kind of respect that, and give him that space to just kind of be in that stillness, which is so important for all of us. And these kids are mirrors. I look at the word mentor, and I think about what it really means, what happens in a true mentorship situation is that, the space between who is the mentor and who's the mentee disappears, and sorry about that. My phone started buzzing.
Okay.
And that it disappears, and there's a true connection to that mirror that I think I get every time that I'm working with a young person, that is going through something I've been through before, and I can find some wisdom almost every single time. These kids are extraordinarily wise. They are thinkers. They've actually had a lot of time to think if they've been, incarcerated for whatever reason. People ask me all the time, "Why do you work with incarcerated kids? They're bad kids. They're, they should be, and they're, they've done something horrible to society." Well, I think nobody should be judged for the rest of their life for a mistake they made as a child. They're a child, and children make mistakes, some of them horrible mistakes, but it's up to us as a community. And I think when we become elders like we are today, we have some kind of responsibility to our future. And these kids are our future, they're the future of and if we can instill more into their lives, if we can help them to develop, and these are the ones who are, in the subculture of the world, who are not really in the mainstream. These are the ones who are, there's millions of people, right, that are not necessary, that don't necessarily sit in the opportunities that are going to later just determine the future of our lives. I believe that we have to spend time. We have to go there. We have to go into the deep and with them and do some good work so they can make it out.
It feels like that population, there's just really not many people that are doing what you're trying to do. It seems like that population is so overlooked, and it's almost like once you make that mistake and you're in the system, you're shunned almost, and there's no opportunity. I know I was listening to your TED Talk, and you talked about, I think it was when you're maybe in a juvenile center, and these 4 or 5 kids came rolling in, and you have this perception of what they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to look like. But what did you actually see when they came in? I loved how you talked about this. It was awesome.
I think we all do that, and to some extent.
Yeah.
We all have these preconceived ideas about who people are just by appearance and, maybe even attitude. And every time I have that, I have to check myself, because I'm going to be wrong. This young person's going to be a child. It's going to be a kid who's just confused, who's lost, who's lonely, who really just all the end of the day just needs and wants love. I've seen some of the folks, I've seen kids who people would run, the other direction from down the street, when not in that environment and not in the groups that help to perpetuate some behaviors that they do. When they're alone and they're alone long enough, you see the humanity of these children and these kids who most people are deadly afraid of. The media perpetuates fear around kids with tattoos on their face, and rarely do people stop and ask, what do those tattoos mean? they'll take you through the map on their face. This is my grandmother, or this is the time when, my younger sister was shot and killed, or, there's a story on their faces
Yeah.
most of the time, which is very tribal. If you look back into a lot of, traditions ancestral in Africa and Europe and, Central and South America, and you look at the art of tattooing and the storytelling that happens in that process, somehow, some way, that archetype is sort of bleeding through these young people. Those are archetypes. Those aren't things they're doing. This is humanity. This is who we are as our humans. We're storytellers by just nature. That's what makes us different from most of the other animal kingdom, is just being able to tell stories. So some people put it on their faces because that's just how we've done it for thousands of years. So
Yeah.
Saying that, I feel like there hasn't been one young person that I've worked with, and I've worked with 25 personally. This is just through the years. There's a lot of just me out there for many years, and I'm running around from this location to that location. I'm working personally with kids and wearing myself out, and I'm already, torn meniscus and my torn L3, is already like falling apart along the way.
Yeah.
What I was finding was this gold. I really was. What I was finding was the anti-narrative. What I was finding was that there's whatever people are buying into as who these kids are is just, they wouldn't know unless they spent as much time as I did running from place to place, working with so many kids. You just see pain, you see the need for love, and you see the need for acceptance by someone that can see them for who they are, truly, a soul that needs to be seen.
Wow. And
so that's why I get so passionate about this work, because there's something else going on here. There's a wisdom in these kids that I think it's not allowed out there. And I'm not saying that there's a conspiracy and we're holding them down. There's none of that. It's just a simple system that has been created to bureaucratic systems that have not allowed evolution of, restorative justice to occur. There's no other. We've walked the same line of discipline and punitive discipline for young people, for kids, for over 100 years. It hasn't really changed. We haven't really reinvented anything. So that's why I'm finding, and that's why the innovation is coming in for me. And I believe this, and I'll say this, and I'll say that nature, okay, there's only so far that we can take these kids on, physiological level of, providing to their needs. There's only so far we can go with education and helping them to believe in themselves. If they don't get that reconnection to nature, if they don't get back there, it's not complete. I don't believe that we can complete this work without that bringing back that involvement of being able to explore and be a part of and feel like you are one with the natural world.
I love that. Why do you think that is? Why do you think specifically nature is such a key component to that full process? I don't know. I don't know if anyone can answer that, but I feel it. I know.
Well, I think for a long time, and given that in this specifically here in this country, I think we've been really focused on individualization, right? We've been focused on being an individual, making it on your own, and getting to the top. Very materialistic, so to speak, and I'd say materialistic, but I actually don't think we're materialistic at all. But the reason why I say that is because we waste so much. So if we're materialistic, we would hold on to things.
That's true.
But that's a different thing. But I believe that because we've been so focused on self and the preservation of self and not preservation of the community, I believe that we've lost connection with the rest of the natural world, which only works within community. Okay. If I'm sitting at a park, and I'm eating lunch, and under a tree there's a pigeon, there's a squirrel, there's a rabbit that's there. they're all hanging out together, right? They're different species. They're just kind of chilling, eating whatever on the ground. As soon as I get up, why do they run away? Right.
Yeah.
So it's been this sort of
No.
exit from Eden, so to speak, that has harmed us in a lot of ways. And so the best thing we can do is try to get back into this, sort of Eden, so to speak, and reconnect and honor what's happening there. When I'm in in Costa Rica and I'm walking through the Diamante Valley, and I can feel the forest bathing going
Yeah.
on.
Oh
I
yeah.
feel all of these scents and the moisture, and I can feel something physiologically, something happening to me as I walk through. I'm different on the other side of that forest for some reason.
I do
So
understand that.
so that's why I think that nature
Yeah.
is a big piece of this, and we need it.
Do you ever hear of Eustace Conway? Does that name ring a bell? He's a guy out in he's like a mountain man in North Carolina, and he had a book. I think it was called The Last American Mountain. I don't even know, but one thing he said that I always thought was pretty cool is like anytime he talked about how, you know, in this world that we live in, we're surrounded by boxes and rectangles. Like I'm looking at the screen now into a box. I can see behind you there's windows. You know, your house is a box. You sleep in a box. You eat cereal out of a rectangle. How do you get to school? You go on a bus with four wheels. It's a box with wheels, and then you sit at a desk, and then your school is all these boxes with doors. When you go into nature, he says there's no right angles really, and there's no straight lines, and that resonates with me often when I'm looking around. I almost like try to find them, and you really can, and that's like it almost opens your brain up to different senses in a way, and I just thought that was a cool way to express that, and it made me think of that when you were saying that.
Yeah, no, and that reminds me of the Fibonacci, sort of the Fibonacci measurements in mathematics, where everything has that sort of that spiral, right?
Yeah,
Everything has the spiral in it, the golden rule, the spiral. Everything in nature has these curvatures, these curves. Everything, all the way down to our dead cells in our skin.
yeah,
We all have this thing, and I think being in these places where it's shaping, you know, energy as I'm sitting in a room that has right degrees, there's energy that isn't flowing because of that, right? So once I get into a dome shaped structure, all of a sudden there's this resonance that I couldn't have with these 90-degree angles before. A lot of
that's
people don't know
cool.
this, but I play the didgeridoo, and I don't know a lot of and so
You got
and
it
I've got a
handy,
I don't have
man.
next podcast.
All right.
But yeah, I play, and so I love finding caves and dome structures
Yeah,
because playing the didge in a room or a structure that's all domed out with maybe even super adobe or even concrete or something like rock has a much different resonance
yeah,
than just being in a classroom or something like that.
for sure.
For those reasons.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Man, there's so much. I thought I knew you, Dr. Grammer. I don't know how, but it's not the part. I did not expect it to kind of go this way. It's such a cool part of your life, and I'm so happy. Like I was thinking of like how does he? And I want to talk specifically in a second, like what is New Earth and how that actually operates now. But as I'm thinking, you've really found it seems like the key is nature to get some of these kids that are not too well off or are coming out of some struggles, whatever, like that might be the key to getting them back on track. Again, there's the mentorship. There's a lot of things that go into it. There's the funding. One of the things you said, and I don't even know, I have everything mixed together, but you said some number of like how much it actually costs to incarcerate a juvenile. It was like 150,000 or something versus per year versus what it maybe costs to go to an Ivy League school.
Yeah.
And what is that? If we just I think you talked about like redirecting that money to something more like what you're doing in New Earth. And could you just give us like, I just want like people to understand exactly what New Earth is and how you can get into that program if you're a juvenile offender in Los Angeles County.
Sure. So when I mentioned that statistic, I think that might have been 4 or 5 years ago, that from the TED Talk. Unfortunately, that number has gone up
Wow.
a lot. And the reason why is because over the last, I would say, 10 years, a lot of us have been working on redirecting those funds to community-based, really strong working community-based organizations that can do more of the work that I'm talking about,
Yeah.
not warehousing kids in these probation camps here in Los Angeles or detention camps, where really they just sit and then they're released and then they come back again in like 2 to 6 months. So unfortunately, what has happened is in the process of us achieving the closure of many of those facilities that were just decrepit and old, and and the process was not doing any good.
Mm-hmm.
The cost had gone up, right? So instead of redirecting that money to the community-based organizations, they just raised the cost on what it costs to incarcerate a kid. So in other words, right now, where I mentioned, the cost to incarcerate a kid for 1 year is the same to educate someone at Harvard for 4 years. That was the cost 4 years ago. Now we're up to $560,000 per year to incarcerate one child and one kid, one youth in Los Angeles County. And we're still in the same conundrum of why are these kids getting locked up? Give us the majority reasons why young people are being locked up. Now, there's definitely an argument around, violent offense, right? There's definitely an argument around safety and mental health with young people that commit violent crimes. There's no question around that. But statistics show that less than 20% of the young people that are incarcerated in Los Angeles are even there for that. And it shows that a larger portion of those young people that are incarcerated are there for probation violations. So meaning that everything from didn't check in or kind of missing in action from their probation officer, which I'm not condoning that at all. You should check in.
Yeah.
But after a while, probation officers with their caseload of whatever 60 to 70 young people, they have to decide on what they want to do with someone who's just kind of missing in action that they can't keep track of. So what they do is that they finally send out a bench warrant. They arrest these young people wherever they are, and they sit in front of a judge, and then they go back in for 6 more months. Now, I think if you had an equipped community-based organization that could tend to that young person's needs, we need to find out first what's going on out there in the world. Is a kid just being defiant, or is there maybe something going on at home? Maybe there's a need that's not being taken care of. Maybe we work with young women too. So like maybe she's 16, she may be pregnant, and she may be living in a studio apartment with her 5 other siblings and her mother and her boyfriend who might be trying to, push up on her, so to speak. Yeah. So and you never know why these kids go missing. They don't ask those questions. Those questions aren't asked. And so time after time, I meet kids that are incarcerated, and you're just blown away by the reasons why they're in there. Because the probation won't tell me why they're locked up. But the kids eventually, when they open up to us, eventually share with us what happened and what the story was. Another thing is that, one of the reasons why this is so underground and it's not really, on your mainstream news is because it can't be on your mainstream news. You can't get a camera in a juvenile detention facility. You can't get CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or anybody in there to cover it. So it's sort of the secret thing that happens underneath the carpet of most cities. I mean, Philly, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, LA. And the only ones that can tell the story of what's happening there are those who are inside working with these kids, and they can come out and advocate that change happens. But other than that, it never becomes a mainstream conversation because it doesn't make it up to the mainstream media. Yeah. So that is part of the issue. So one of that's the main reason why I go out and I speak on this often. I keynote in places. I talk heavily. I do my best to help humanize who these young people are, tell their stories, talk about what needs to happen and shift and change, and mental health that needs to be brought in a little bit more heavily in some areas too, with supporting young people with just what they need as far as being healthy and stable and not on bad diets and
Yeah.
all of that good stuff. And this is the reason why, because there's very few voices out here that actually can stand up for these kids.
Yeah. And it's just it, like you said, the news media can't get in there and see what's happening. So someone like you that does stand up for them, and you're able to get in there, like with New Earth. I mean, to get it, obviously, I'm not understanding fully your program, and we didn't really ask you a million questions or anything, but how do you get into New Earth? I mean, do you go out to juvenile centers, and do the kids like apply for it, or do you like pick the ones that would be most suitable? How does that, and how many, like, do you have quotas? Like how many kids you can actually help?
Sure, sure. Those are great questions. So I'll just give you just a kind of a nutshell of kind of what our organization, what our program does. So
Okay.
we're a multifaceted organization that has we're all about educational, vocational, and arts programs with the wraparound services, mental health component on the other end. So we have a clinical department within New Earth as well.
Yeah.
We contract with the County of Los Angeles to provide our services in their detention facilities. So what that means is someone, say a young person, gets sent to a juvenile camp. So a camp, we call it camp, but it's not a Snoopy camp. It's a detention facility, right? They get
Yeah.
sent over to a detention facility. And as soon as they walk through that door, we're one of the organizations that they are in contact with for support. So if you look at it like
Okay.
this, they enter either through our vocational track there, where we're doing workforce development, coming in through our educational track, where we're supporting the already sort of stretched education system that's happening in these places,
Yeah.
or they're coming in through one of our art tracks. That gives us the opportunity then to build a relationship, build a rapport with this young person, find out more of what's happening in their lives, so then that we can help them make a soft landing once they're released. The majority of the young people we work with are only locked up between 3 months to 18 months. Most of them they're not long sentences, not in our program. There are other
Yeah.
organizations that work with kids who are fighting their fitness and maybe charged as an adult. We don't work with those specifically. We come across them and sometimes we are able to sort of tag team with those organizations to provide resources on the outside, but on the inside we're usually there for the main population, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then once a young person begins to work with our case managers, so we have case managers that go into the sites, getting them prepared, helping them set up an action plan, reconnecting with parents, making sure that home is going to be safe when they get home, or it's going to be a place where there isn't going to be a reoffense happening, where
Yeah.
things are a little bit more stable. We begin that process about 3 months before they leave. And then
Okay.
once they leave, at that point we do a warm handoff to ourselves
Hmm.
at our community center. So we have a 14,000 square foot community center
Wow.
in the middle of Los Angeles, with where it houses our staff. It houses our other workforce development programs, our classrooms. We have a partnership with Da Vinci Rise School. They're a school that really caters to our population,
Yeah.
and are really connected with our missions. We found them, they found us, and it's just perfect. So the young person doesn't have to go back to the school that failed them before, wherever that may be, not naming any names, and they can finish their education right there on site. So what I really love about the way we do things is that we do a one-stop shop. So once they're released, they come back to our center. Everything's in one place. You've got your high school. You can check in with your probation officer from there. You got your case managers and your wraparound services. You have your therapist and your mental health support. You've got your arts programs. We have a music studio on site. We're installing a boxing gym. We're doing some really cool stuff. We do meditation and yoga and a bunch
Wow.
of programs. We have conflict resolution classes. We have all these electives that they can do. So from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m., you're between the ages of 16, and we work with kids all the way up to 25.
Okay.
You're on site and you get all your needs handled. We 2 meals a day, and we're just digging in. We're going deeper and finding out how we can best support you coming out of this school to prison pipeline.
Yeah. Whew. That's amazing. I mean, that's a lot. I know that. I actually wonder. So at my school, I'm a high school teacher, but I run this program called Link Crew, and it's actually based out of California. I don't know if they had it at any of the schools that you've ever worked with, but it's a mentor program where like I'll train about 100 juniors and seniors that will mentor the freshmen through their entire freshman year. So like, for instance, like if you and I were partners and you were a junior, I was a senior, like we would have our own group of 10 freshmen through their entire freshman year to mentor them. So I'm just curious on this next thing. If you use any of, when you're working with kids, especially ones that come in fresh, new, you're trying to get their trust. Do you ever work with like, or you ever hear of something called like the group development model? Or I think the guy's name is like Bruce Tuckman, but it's really like if you come in, if you have a group that you're trying to, mentor or gain their trust, the way that we were kind of taught is like, it really has to start with a low risk activity and really like build that little by little, build that risk to where you finally get to the point where they open up and they trust you. We do it through activities. Like, you ever want to run through activities? I love, I find that like that type of experiential learning is really fun and opens kids up to get closer. It's a good tool to get closer to that higher level where they start to open up more. So I don't know. Do you ever see, and maybe, I don't care if you use the wording or whoever's model it is, but do you ever like, how do you see that when a new group of kids comes in? Do you feel that you got to be careful? Like you can't go in too hot. Like you gotta sort of ease into things. Is that a thing that you notice, or you'd never really even thought like that?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Especially when you're working with kids and you walk into a classroom in prison and there's 20 kids, and like you're new, you got to be ready for whatever comes your way.
I can't imagine.
Our curriculum for our flow program. I might have mentioned that on the talkers.
I was going to ask you about it eventually, but yeah, tell us about
it.
That's
our
great.
Way in. That's our way in, right? Like that's an arts program, but it's designed to help break down those walls and those barriers.
Yeah.
And there's icebreakers that are built into that as well, but it's really about creating a sense of community really quickly amongst everyone. It's about everyone coming to see each other in each other, right? Yeah. As quickly as possible. You got rival gang members in the classroom, and there's a lot of heat already. One great thing is that when we come in, we're so well known in these places. Like, they get the flow program. Everyone's really excited to see what it's all about for the first time. So we've kind of, it's one of those things where we walk in and they're already like, okay, we're excited. We've heard about this thing. But at the same time, you still get, if you don't have if our instructors aren't on, and as a teacher, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not on and you're not ready for what's about to come your way, and they feel that you're just there for a paycheck, or you're there for, just for giggles, right? Mm-hmm. They will shut down immediately. So we have to find a way to connect with them quickly. Poetry is always the way that we start our classes, right? So if I got a new group, I come in with some poetry. One, they get to see right off the bat how vulnerable I am. Yeah. I'm vulnerable. I'm writing poetry, and I'm gonna, when I speak that poetry, I'm gonna have a bit of emotion, and it's gonna feel. I'm gonna feel into that poetry. It's not something I just wrote and I want to read it to you. I'm gonna share with you a part of my life, but I'm gonna put it in some sort of really creative, heartfelt, rhythm, cadence, rhyme. And those kids that I work with, they really connect with that, right? A lot of kids love hip hop music, and so right away when they hear rhythm and rhyme, they're like, oh, okay, this guy's cool, or she's cool. It's like there's automatic this thing of like, oh, they're cool, and it has to have some things in there that they can relate to. So it's not me coming in and giving you my bio. It's more like I'm going to share with you a part of myself that I put into an art form just for you for this moment of us together, and I'm going to invite you to do the same thing, in a moment, and then likely someone else will write something during that first session. And then having that young person get up and share themselves in that way, it completely breaks open what this is all about. And you're going to always have that one or two in the back of the room who just don't want to give in for whatever. eventually, and I've seen it happen time and time again, eventually everybody gets into the groove and it becomes fun and something comes out of it for everybody. So I believe in, it's me as an example first
Yeah.
to do what I'm asking you to do, and then share with you in a way that I'm asking you to share with us, so we can break these walls down, so we can get to work. That's usually how I open up and get a room going.
Yeah. I was watching, I would love to see that process like the whole way through, because I just want to see it first of all. And also it'd be something I would consider doing with my students, different population, but still, I think it would be equally, maybe not as, I don't know what it would be. It would be fun. And I think they would get something out of it.
Yeah, I think the curriculum I wrote is not just for that population,
Yeah.
even though they can really, there's some things in there that are really hard that we talk about for them. There's 13 chapters in the curriculum, and one of the chapters we get into fathers. And I purposely put that a little later in the curriculum, just because fathers are a tough subject for a lot of these kids. And we need to talk about it. We need to talk about dads here, because most of them were raised by their mothers or their grandmothers, but by women. And the father piece is something that is silently missing from their lives. And we get in there a little bit, and, we sew it back up at the end. We don't leave it open, and, but we sew it back up. But yeah, and so those vulnerable pieces are important to them finding, and it all connects back to the self-discovery, right? Like these are the conversations to have to get them back to what is your purpose? What are you passionate about? What are you aligned with? All this leads up to where they can be more freely open with themselves and with us about where can I help guide you, that you already know somewhere inside you want to go.
The one kid I was watching, he goes, he's like, Harry came in and he laced me up. I was like a pair of shoes. He just laced me up. I needed to be tightened up. I was like, that's a great metaphor. I was like, that's probably exactly what you did. I love that, man. I'm glad you put that up. I don't know where I saw it. I was looking at all kinds of stuff that you had. I like that kid. I like the smile. And he was like, he was buying into it. You could tell, that was cool. So I know we're running short on time here. There's just endless stuff to talk with you about, Harry, but, sorry, Dr. Grammer. But one thing I wanted to mention is this. Could you explain to us what this, you were a fellow for the Obama Foundation. I don't know exactly what that is. It sounds really cool. I did see you get a picture with Obama, and Michelle Obama has a quote about you. That's pretty good stuff. So what's that all about, man?
Yeah. So, doing this work, there's things that happen, I guess you might want to say, and people begin to recognize your work and get noticed, out there in the world.
Yeah.
And it was 2017, and I got an email from a friend of mine. Her name was Kat, and she was a photographer in one of the juvenile detention facilities. And she sends me this email. It was like one-liner. She says, "Dude, you should apply for this." That was it. And I opened this link, and and I opened the link, and it was like this Obama fellowship. So I read the criteria, and I'm like, oh, I'm a fit for this, right?
Yeah.
And so I applied, not thinking that I was going to get chosen by this. I had never met the Obamas before this. It was just kind of throwing it out into the wind. And about 3 months later, I get a call from the Obama Foundation saying, "Hey, you're in consideration to be an inaugural fellow of the foundation." Now, the foundation this is their post presidency work. I mean, a lot of it's shaped around their presidential center, which is very different than a lot of presidential centers we've had in the past.
Yeah. Very
interactive. It's placed in the middle of a community in need, and it's going to provide, everything from education to resources, but very interactive center. And also just to advise the foundation on, some of the things that are going on and where we need support, whether it be within healthcare, social justice, criminal justice, where we can, get better with everything on, and when it comes to, our climate and things like that. So they called me. They said, "Yeah, we're taking you through this process." Well, for the next 6 months, it was pretty intense. Wow. And I thought the CNN thing was intense. CNN went really deep into my history and everything to
Wow.
vet me for the CNN hero. Like
Yeah.
it 2.5 year vet. And they had gone back into my family history and talked to people in my childhood and went through all of my financial, my
Yeah.
bank account. I mean, my company's bank. I mean, they went through everything.
Just to make sure there was no like secret, like some thing that stuck out
Yeah,
or whatever.
something that's gonna sneak out and be like, "Oh, you guys chose this guy as a hero, and look, he's a big old fraud, right?" Like, so they've got to do their due
Yeah.
diligence
Yeah.
on
Sure.
that. And so the Obama Foundation was worse. It was even more scrutinizing than that, right?
Wow.
And they did it in 6 months. So imagine what took 2.5 years now into 6 months. And I asked them, I stopped them at like somewhere within about 4 months in. I was like, "What's going on?" They're like, "Look, you've applied for a fellowship with a former president.
Yeah.
Like let's be clear here. We've got to make sure that you are clean as a whistle,
Yeah.
Yeah, and in April of that year, this was 2018. I'm sitting in a training my staff, and I get a text, from some of from the foundation saying, "Give me a call really quickly," and I'm like, "What does this mean? This might be a bad." And then I didn't respond to it, so they started calling me, and so I took the call, and they said, "Harry, are you sitting?" I said, "Yeah, I just left the training to go sit in my office to take this call. What's up?" And they said, "Well, Harry, we have selected you as one of the 20 inaugural Obama Foundation fellows. There were 21,000 applicants out of
Wow.
191 countries, and you're only one of the 10 in the U.S. that the president and Mrs. Obama personally selected to be a part of their next chapter in their careers." And it was pretty cool to get that call.
That's very
And
cool.
so since then, it's been, I've spent a lot of time. I wouldn't say a lot. I'm not there all the time, but I've spent good time with both of them,
Wow.
and conversation and, in circles and in forums, discussing, some of the areas where we can do better, in areas of youth justice and social justice in that regard to young people. And they've listened, and they've
Yeah.
been very supportive. They've been very supportive of our work and amplifying what we're doing here on the ground in Los Angeles. So it's been great.
Yeah.
And and so since then the Obama Foundation has expanded. We were the first program that they launched in 2018. Since then they've launched several programs. There's a Obama Scholars Program, which they work with the University of Columbia, the University of Chicago,
Okay.
work with young kids who are already, in schools, making a difference and already thinking about how to cause change. And then there's also there's the Obama leaders in Africa. There's Obama leaders in Europe. There's Obama leaders in Asia. There's over 800 people and programs that are advising on what the Obama Foundation might want to be paying attention to, in years to come. That's happening in the communities of places all over the world, I
Yeah.
think they've taken on a lot. They're having kind of a global conversation about what we can do as a whole to sort of get back on track in a lot of ways to paying attention to things that just kind of get swept under the rug sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they're lucky to have you on board because you're a very genuine guy, and it seems like you have great intentions, and it's just such a perfect recipe for success. I've just never heard of such an idea that you've come up with, and it seems like it's headed in the right direction, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I think like you're heading in the right direction, but this all kind of started for you. You kind of, like you said, you had a little trouble when you were young, and a lot of the kids that I deal with and younger people really struggle to find, when I ask them what their passion is, or maybe what do you want to do, and they just don't know. But it seems like even for you, I would say for one, you found it, and if you haven't, you're fooling everyone, including the president. But what advice would you give to young people? Like, how do you find it? How do you find your purpose, your mission, like what you're supposed to do? Is there anything that you could help them with to sort of like guide them in the right direction?
Yeah,
It's a tough
I
one.
would, yeah, for young people, I think the first thing I would ask them to do is to find someone in your life that's already moving in that direction or moving in a direction that is healthy and positive, and mentor up and stick with that person. Ask questions. Just be as close as you can because that person will likely give you the advice in the right direction.
Hmm.
Don't go the other
That's great
direction
advice.
and find people in your life that are going in the wrong direction because that's you're gonna end up in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Um, Patience. Patience is huge. Life is not a straight line. Life is a zigzag. That's how it just works. And so some things can't come into play until it's time. And you're gonna want things to come into play. You're gonna wish that things would come faster, but that's not how a rose blossoms. It takes its time, and it forms into this beautiful piece of natural art at the end. And so, being patient with our mistakes, hard times will come.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. There will be hard times through life, and so um, really it's hard to say, but
Yeah, I know.
really, really love your hard times. Like really know that somewhere down the line it's gonna make sense. It and that is the biggest. This is one of the biggest lessons I've ever had. Is knowing that the dots will connect somewhere.
Yeah.
You may not know it while you're going through it. Maybe hell while you're going through it. You may hate the world, but if you accept in that moment that this is happening and allow it to happen, knowing that somewhere it's going to make sense and you're going to be further along because of it, somehow, some way, that is why this is happening. That is gold in life, and that's pretty bold for me to say that, but
Yeah.
it's one of the biggest lessons that I've ever had is just to keep the faith, and knowing, and sit quietly, and listen. We all have our own personal wisdom. It's in there.
Yeah.
If we take time, like I meditate, so I meditate every day. I spend time every day in silence, meditating and listening for directions, or if I'm stuck with something, usually whatever I need to know percolates to the top.
Yeah.
That's something I've learned over time, and it's been really helpful. Being able to trust myself in that way. But that's another way to sort of get yourself into a position to where um, you trust and that some of the decisions you make are going to be bad sometimes. Some of the decisions you're going to make are going to be good sometimes. But all in all, how do you find yourself empowered?
Yeah.
Hard to say. How do you find yourself empowered by everything?
Hmm.
Like everything.
Yeah.
Like everything that happens in your life. How can it empower you in some way? And usually in meditation you can find where and why something happened and be empowered by it, knowing that one day the dots will connect.
Yeah. That's powerful. Meditation for me, I have tried. Like a lot of people say, it's just hard to sit there in silence. And you mentioned your L3 earlier. Like when I try to sit in yoga class in the stance that everyone else is in, I'm like always leaning against a wall or something. And it's just my mind just gets so distracted, and it's like you have to fight through that. I guess you probably went through something like that too when you maybe you first started. It seems like it's hard to
Yeah,
focus.
well, but like I think a lot of times we get caught up in like the positions and the sitting and everything, and like
Yeah.
that's not the purpose of meditation, because the purpose of meditation is to be undistracted, right? If
Yeah.
you got an L3 bothering you, you're distracted. That's gonna be there for you. There's no way you can go to meditation. So quickly get out of that position and get to something that's you can not be distracted by whatever's happening. Even thoughts that run through your mind, those are also distractions,
Oh yeah.
right? How can you be not distracted by those thoughts? Just be not distracted by the thoughts. Sometimes those thoughts are asking for you to listen. So sometimes just sit there and listen to those thoughts. Like just see, where's it going? Where's it taking me? Where are you going? Very few people actually listen to all that's going on there and follow the trail all the way through where it's going. Sometimes that's all we need. And once you get to where it needs to go, or once you see that's just conundrum and machinery that's just
Yeah.
going off all the time, then you can say, "Oh, it's just machinery," And just like a church bell in the distance, you don't stop to listen to it, do you? No, you just keep on walking by.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
That's
So,
cool.
getting to a distractionless place is actually where you want to be.
Yeah.
So then, this other thing begins to like rise up. That's a voice that wants to guide you on your journey.
Yeah. Well, it's quite a journey that you've been on. And I want to thank you for taking some time to talk with me and the people that listen to this podcast, Dr. Grammer. I feel honored to have had this hour to chat. I am so excited to find out that you're motivated by so many of the things that I am also motivated by and inspired by some of those things as well. There's a lot I have to say, but we're short on time. I wanted to end with a beautiful quote that Michelle Obama said about you, and I believe this is true. And that I think she said that you're an impact maker everyone should be paying attention to. I wrote that down because I would butcher that if I didn't write it down. And I agree with that. I mean, after talking with you, it's amazing what you're doing. Could you just tell the audience where they could check out your stuff and just a few socials or whatever you have?
So Harry Grammer is my handle on most. On Instagram, it's Grammer Harry. Had to go backwards on that one, but everywhere else it's at Harry Grammer.
With an ER.
With an ER.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. Harry Grammer with an ER.
I found that out on, because AR is not you.
Yeah. And then New Earth Life. That's newearthlife.org. The organization is not New Earth Life. It's just the ending of the actual address that we could, actually purchase 20 years ago. So it's newearthlife.org is our website. And harrygrammer.com is also my personal website as well. So folks can check me out there too. If anyone wants to shoot me an email, it's harrygrammer@newearthlife.org. Awesome. Or actually, and hgrammer@newearthlife.org. So there's two will lead you there.
That's cool. I must say, Dr. Grammer, if you ever need or ever want to collaborate on any large group team building and stuff, I love doing that. I do go out to California every now and then to do different things. So I love what you're doing, and I'd love to be a part of it someday, and just, keep it in the back of your mind if anything ever comes up, because I love what you're doing. I'd love to be part of it sometime.
Yeah, we're redesigning our flow curriculum. So I might hit you up just to maybe try it out in your classroom.
I'll try it out, record it, show you, and then break it down, debrief it, whatever you want, man. I promise. So awesome. That's really cool. It's been a great hour. Thank you, Dr. Grammer, for talking with us and talking with me. And have a great day in LA.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you. I really didn't know what we were going to talk about either, and I'm glad we didn't, because it flowed just nicely. I really appreciate, your thoughts and your words and who you are as a person, and your love for nature. That's really got my heart. So thank you so much. And I look forward to more conversations in the future.
As do I. Have a great night or a great afternoon. We're 3 hours.
Good afternoon.
Right? Man, I'm going to bed.
All right.
All right, Dr. Grammer. Take care. If you have a great mentor or leader that you would like to be considered for the show, email us at theleadernextdoor10@gmail.com. Also, check us out on Instagram at leadernextdoor and our new YouTube channel at The Leader Next Door. And as Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Have a great week, everyone.